Liz Harvey Roberts. I'm Chief Development Officer for the California chapter of the Nature Conservancy. And today we are going to talk about lands, humans, nature, the unbroken link. It's one of my favorite subjects because it involves mountain lions. So I hope that you are as interested as I am. And Cara is the Associate Director of our city's program with her home office down in San Diego. So I hope that you and your families are well at this time. It's a strange time for all of us, and I know it's affected different people in different ways. So we just want to say that we care about you and are thinking about how you're all doing. We appreciate that you care about us too. Without supporters and members, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. So again, thanks for being here. Well, so as I mentioned, we're going to be talking about mountain lions, and more specifically, we're going to be talking about how we can reestablish vital habitat linkages so that mountain lions have enough space to roam in Southern California specifically. And not only mountain lions will benefit from this, but all other types of wildlife, and Cara's going to explain that to us. A fun fact that I looked at when I was preparing for this webinar, a male mountain lion needs about 40 to 80 miles of habitat for just one mountain lion. So that's a lot of hills and mountains here in California. And that's why it's really vital that we protect as much as we can. All right, so I think I'm ready to turn it over to Cara. So Cara, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and why you do what you do, and then launch the program.
Great.
Thanks.
Thank you, Liz. First, I want to say thank you so much to everyone for joining us here today. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to take you through this journey of this presentation on habitat connectivity and with a focus on mountain lions. I've been with the Nature Conservancy approximately 4 years. I lead our Connected Lands program. And I came to the Nature Conservancy as an urban planner. I've been an urban planner for about 18 years. And as an urban planner, both on the East and the West Coast, I realized that although I love being a planner, I wasn't having the impacts that I wanted to see every day in the environment, those positive impacts that we all want to see. So when I saw the Nature Conservancy job, I jumped at the opportunity, and here I am. I get to work with amazing and intelligent scientists every day, a wonderful team that makes up the Connected Lands team. And we look at habitat connectivity throughout the state. Today, my presentation will focus mostly on Southern California, to look at how we can build a system of land protection and a system of crossings throughout Southern California. So thank you again for being here today, and why don't we just dive in? So again, my name is Cara Lacey, and I lead our Connected Lands program. Today I'm going to be talking about land, human, and nature, the unbroken link. Liz already went through this information, but just in case any of you are arriving late and you don't know about the Nature Conservancy, we are a large organization that started in 1951 as a land trust. We are in all 50 states in approximately 79 countries, and we've protected 120 million acres of land as well as 173 million acres of ocean throughout the world. And so our program and my team focuses on connecting that land together because wildlife and humans need a place to move and roam safely. And so we try to make that happen. Now I'm just going to set the stage here for a minute for this presentation. And as we're on this slide, I want you to take a look at this landscape. And if you will, imagine yourself as an animal. So try to look through the perspective of an animal's eyes. You could be a cougar, you could also be a slithering snake, a lizard, or even a butterfly. And as you imagine this landscape, this is exactly what you want to see. So you want to see this open landscape that's unimpeded without human traffic or roadways that are crisscrossing through the landscape and without housing impeding into the landscape. And this is really important for wildlife, even plants, because they need to move. And the reason that we want to see habitat connectivity continue is because animals need to move, and they need to move to find mates, to locate food, to escape threats like fires or floods, and to adapt to changing conditions like climate adaptation or climate change. And so the presentation that we're doing today is going to focus mostly on Southern California. And this is where habitat connectivity is extremely vital. mainly because, as you know, about 40 million people live in the state, and a lot of that growth in population is continuing in Southern California. So we're going to continue to grow, we're going to have more housing, we're going to see a lot of urbanization and a lot more roadways. And this starts to break up the landscape. So in about 2001, SC Wildlands led a project called the South Coast Missing Linkages. And this looked at an area of the South Coast from the Sierra Nevada mountains or the Southern Sierras down to San Diego, Mexico border to take a look at how could we create this network of protected lands. Well, today the Nature Conservancy is updating that study and taking a look at where we are and if we've made progress and where threats remain. Trish Smith with the Nature Conservancy that leads the Science for the Connected Lands team is currently doing that update. And what we found so far is that progress has been made in these linkages. However, threats remain, and we really need to focus on building out that system of land protection and that system of crossings, especially in this next decade, and especially for the mountain lion. So as we work through this presentation, I will mostly be using the mountain lion as an example. And the reason that I'll be doing that is because, one, they're an apex predator. They're very important for keeping the ecosystem healthy and functioning in a healthy way. But also they're a really good example of what you don't really want to end up in your backyard. So as we create linkages and corridors or fixed severed corridors, mountain lions then have a space to move, and they're less likely to end up in your backyard or end up on our roadways, which decreases the likelihood of those human-animal conflicts. And that's very important, and that's a really important takeaway that I will also address at the end of the presentation. There's also a lot of science around the mountain lion, especially in the western US states and in California. And what that science is showing is that the mountain lion in some locations, mostly in Southern California, is really isolated. Their habitat is so fragmented due to roadways and housing that in some locations, like the Santa Ana Mountains, for example, inbreeding is setting in and disease will soon follow if we don't fix something soon. And because of this, the California Department of Fish and Wildlife just recently in April decided to study the mountain lion to list it and to determine if it's a candidate for listing. Sorry, the Southern California mountain lion, to determine if it's a candidate for listing as an endangered or threatened species. And this is really important for our future work. So let's dive in. I want to start the presentation with a quote by Leo Tolstoy, who said, "One of the first conditions of happiness is that the link between human and nature shall not be broken." But as you can see on the image of the right, we are breaking up our landscapes. We are breaking that linkage. So what you're seeing on the right is, in red, multiple roadways, which make up freeways, rural roads, as well as regular roadways that are cutting through the California landscape and breaking it up. And this continues to happen, and it causes barriers to movement for wildlife. And so what that means is that habitat fragmentation starts occurring. That creates the loss of connectivity of those landscapes that we really want to see, especially when we were looking through the animal's eyes at that landscape. We start to lose that. Habitat degradation, which eventually leads to a loss of plants and animals. So let's just dive into that a little bit more. On the left, you're seeing a healthy population. It's a conceptual drawing of a healthy population that's connected. Nothing is severing those connections. So this population is able to respond to threats, they can get to resources, they can find mates, and they create this healthy, long-lasting population. But as we start to urbanize and cut through the landscape with roadways, we start to split those healthy populations into segments or isolate them or disconnect them. And when that occurs, these populations get smaller and they're less able to, or they're not as able to respond to threats like fire. And sometimes if they're so isolated, disease will set in. That typically means that they will end up disappearing. And so this is what's happening in the mountain lion community and the mountain lion population. So we're starting to see through the genetic study that was done in the Western US mountain lion population that there is a very healthy population in the Nevada population. It's one connected population. And we also see a very healthy population in the Sierra Nevadas within California. But what's really happening in California is those populations are starting to be split into subpopulations or disconnected. So California is split into 9 subpopulations of mountain lions, and Southern California is split into 6 separate populations. And that's occurring in Southern California because of urbanization and because of roadways, and because we've severed a lot of the corridors that mountain lions were using to find each other and to find resources and food. And unfortunately, this means that the Southern California population could go extinct in 10 to 50 years. And that span is so big because in some areas, some mountain ranges, like the Santa Ana Mountains, the mountain lion population in those mountains could go extinct in less than 20 years. And experts and scientists are saying in about 10 to 12 years, those mountain lions could go extinct. So now that I've depressed you, I want you to know that there's hope. There's hope in the Southern Sierras, and there's hope in the Peninsular Ranges. And there's hope because we have that healthy population in the Sierra Nevadas. And if we continue to maintain that linkage into Southern California, which is known as the Tehachapi Linkage, between the Sierra Nevada mountains and the Los Padres National Forest you're seeing here, or the Sierra Madre Mountains, then we can continue to bring and connect or reconnect that healthy population into Southern California. And the Peninsular Ranges, which kind of run along the spine of San Diego County into Riverside and out to Orange County, also shows hope if we can reconnect populations in that location because it's highly urbanized. And so these are the locations that the Nature Conservancy is focusing. These are our strategic engagement sites and our demonstration areas where we're really focusing on creating 2 anchoring wildlife connectivity hubs. So the Tehachapi region, what you're seeing here, is a vital linkage which connects, like I said, the Sierra Nevada mountains to the Santa Monica Mountains. And the Santa Ana to Palomar linkage creates a connection between the Santa Ana Mountains and the Palomar Mountains. And if we focus here, we can create these 2 connectivity hubs. But also, the Nature Conservancy's recent science is demonstrating that these 2 areas and these 2 anchors are nature's strongholds, or they're exhibiting, or they are ecological strongholds. So let me define that for you. An ecological stronghold means a place where diversity of life continues and it exists. And if we protect these strongholds and we continue to maintain them, especially in intact areas like in the Tehachapi linkage, then that life can continue and other animals can move to those locations as they try to adapt to climate. So these 2 anchors and these 2 ecological strongholds are extremely important for that, but also, like I said, for creating connectivity hubs. So what do I mean by a connectivity hub? So this is Grand Central Station in New York City, and this is a transportation hub for people. And so what you find in Grand Central Station is the opportunity for people to choose ways to move from this transportation hub out, or from out to this transportation hub with different options. So they can take a train, they can take a bus, they can take different vehicles to get somewhere from this transportation hub. And that's exactly what we're thinking about creating and what we are starting to create in the Santa Ana to Palomar region, as well as the Tehachapi location. Because we can't just take wild animals and throw them in the back of our trucks like we can domestic animals and drive them to where we want to see them go. And we can't get them over those barriers by driving them. But we also can't put them into gondolas and move them through the landscape where we want them to go. But we can create and restore their linkages by focusing on retrofitting structures or building new structures and protecting land. So what you're seeing on this slide over to your left is a ringtail cat, and he's using this structure as it's a culvert that runs under a freeway. And he's able to use this structure, but larger animals like mountain lions or bears probably can't use this structure. So it would be something that we would look at to retrofit in order to allow for larger animals to move through, or we build a new culvert under that freeway, under that barrier, so that we can reconnect habitats together and animals can continue to move under the freeway. And this also helps to keep people safe so that they're not hitting animals on the freeway as they try to take their chance there. Or we can build wildlife crossings over the freeway. So this is a really great example of a wildlife crossing in Banff, Canada. And Banff, Canada is also like the poster child for a connectivity hub. They have multiple wildlife crossings over the highways as well as under, and they use culverts for animals to move through the landscape. So this is a really great example of what we're trying to create in both the Santa Ana to Palomar area as well as the Tehachapi area. And we can also protect land. So it's very important that we protect a system of land, not only on both sides so that we can build a structure over or under a freeway, but also beyond those structures so that animals can continue to move in a protected landscape. So essentially, we want to shift from a system of barriers to a system of land protection and crossings so that animals can move safely and people can move safely. And I want to dive into the area called Santa Ana de Palomar, where we've been working and where we're focusing and demonstrate to you what we're doing in that location. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is a handful of mountain lions that were collared and tracked. They were collared by UC Davis Wildlife Health Center, Dr. Winston Vickers, and plotted by the Nature Conservancy with UC Davis. And so this demonstrates tracking points for mountain lions. And so I'm just going to pause it here. What you're seeing on the left is the Santa Ana Mountains. It's about a handful, about 5 mountain lions that have been tracked. And so they're walking up to Interstate 15 and they're not crossing. And then on the right, sorry, you see the Palomar Mountains and the Peninsula Ranges. And those mountain lions are also trying to find their way. As they get to the freeway, they also are not crossing. So this is a really huge issue. However, it's fixable. This is a view of the area that we're talking about that was just on the last screen, and I'll take you through what you're looking at right now. So Interstate 15 is running south, and you're looking towards San Diego County. Where you see all of the housing, that's part of the city of Temecula. On the west side of the freeway is protected land, and on the east side is open space. And you see the Santa Margarita River, which runs down and just comes under the freeway. Well, this is an area known as the Temecula Creek Bridge. And as you saw on the tracking point, this is exactly one of the areas where the mountain lions are walking up to the bridge and they're not crossing. But about 2 miles south, we're having the same issue. So there are culverts along Interstate 15. However, some animals will use them, like coyotes. They're really resilient and they take their chances, and they'll end up in urban places and they'll figure out how to get out of them. They're definitely resilient and much more brave. But as you see on your left, the bobcat, that bobcat's kind of looking in. We don't know if it's crossing. Unfortunately, just 2 days ago, our partners called us and found a bobcat on Interstate 15 that had not made it. So they are probably not crossing through this culvert either. One, it's too dark. It's about 210 to 235 feet long, and it's really scary when you can't see the other side to where you're crossing. And mountain lions are definitely not crossing either. So as you can see on the left, the mountain lion starts looking into the culvert, inspecting, and then the mountain lion decides, no, I'm not using that. It's too dark, it's too scary, I can't see to the other side, I'm not going to cross. So he will also take his chances crossing at grade on Interstate 15. So this is why fixing the Temecula Creek Bridge is step number 1. And that's exactly what we're doing. So I just want to talk a minute about partners here. We have been working with multiple partners, local NGOs, as well as San Diego State University, UC Davis, Cal Poly Pomona, and we've had a really great relationship with Caltrans, or the California Department of Transportation, as well as the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And we've all been looking at this area to figure out how can we upgrade it, and we've been working together. And Caltrans is actually leading the charge, Caltrans District 8, in getting up wildlife fencing along Interstate 15, so that at least if an animal starts to decide to take that, to risk its life to cross at grade over Interstate 15, it can't do that because we're going to be putting up, Caltrans is going to be putting up wildlife exclusion fencing. So the first thing we want to do is fix this bridge because it's there and we can make it function, and it is functioning for other animals. But what are the issues that we're having with this bridge? So scientists evaluate it, and the 3 main issues that they're seeing and why we think mountain lions and other animals are not crossing or using it is 1, because of human presence. So what you're seeing in this picture is underneath Interstate 15. This is the Temecula Creek Bridge. There's a lot of garbage. There was criminal activity down there, and there are a lot of human smells. And mountain lions and other animals really don't want to come in contact with humans, and they don't like human smells. Also, it's extremely noisy. So we did a podcast, the Nature Conservancy did a podcast along with Dr. Winston Vickers with UC Davis. We stood under Interstate 15. So what you're seeing in this picture is the split lane highway. It's 4 lanes on each side. So it's pretty massive highway. It's a very busy highway and it's a very noisy highway. So in the podcast, you will hear the traffic just continually flowing over us and the vibrations that we hear. So that's pretty scary for an animal trying to cross. And light is also an issue. Like I said with the culvert, it's really hard to see to the other side. And if animals can't see to the other side, some of them won't take that risk and they won't go through. So what's happening here is we have a lot of invasive plant species that need to be removed and replanted with native species. So we knew this was an issue, and through prompting from the California Department of Transportation and through a grant that was received by UC Davis, we worked with Cal Poly Pomona engineering students to help to address this problem. And so Cal Poly Pomona senior engineering students took this opportunity and decided to use a year of their classes to study the issues with the Temecula Creek Bridge. And so they came up with 3 things that they thought we should do in a proposal, and they also designed this conceptual design that you're seeing on the screen. So what they proposed was that we should separate the animal and the people uses through wildlife inclusionary fencing, so continuing the fencing that the California Department of Transportation is going to do. In order to address noise because of the freeway, we're also going to be looking at the possibility, and they researched what they called noise baffles, which you can put on the bridge and significantly decreases the decibel level of the noise from Interstate 15. And also they suggested that we restore the river down there because the river needs additional work because of the invasive species. So they suggested that we remove the invasive species and plant native species. And because these were such great suggestions, and because we worked with partners and we brought experts in for them to work with the students, they came up with this really great plan. And we know we have additional work to do in order to look at and master plan this area. So the Nature Conservancy, led by Trish Smith, our lead scientist, went for a Wildlife Conservation Board grant, and we were tentatively approved for that grant, which is a planning grant to look at upgrading this bridge. So it would be master planning, specifications, and environmental permitting to get us to the point where we can implement changes and upgrade this bridge. And we're hopefully going to be officially approved on May 20th. So we're really moving this forward, which is extremely exciting. But there's still more work to do. So because of what's happening about 2 miles south, where those culverts were that animals were looking in and not crossing, we realized we do need another crossing. It's imperative that we get another crossing at least 2 miles to the south. So multiple scientists, the National Park Service, the Nature Conservancy, UC Davis, and other scientists worked on a report to evaluate the best locations for the next crossing. And what they found was that, of course, the Temecula Creek Bridge is the first step that we should take to upgrade that bridge to get things moving as quickly as possible. But also that where you see the Rainbow Canyon property and where you see the Rainbow Canyon circle, that was the best location for a future and a new crossing, most likely an overpass. But in order to move an overpass forward, we have to have protected land on both sides of the interstate. So as you see on the right, the Santa Margarita Ecological Reserve, that's protected land. So that was great. But the other side of the interstate was not protected. So through negotiations with property owners, the Nature Conservancy was able to protect and acquire the Rainbow Canyon property, which is about 75 acres. And now we can move forward with the conversation with Caltrans in order to get that overpass in, or potentially a new culvert. And we're in that conversation right now with the California Department of Transportation, as well as the California Department of Fish and Wildlife, and multiple partners. And I just wanted to show you this picture. This was a mountain lion that was captured by UC Davis and our cameras on the Rainbow Canyon property. And this is a mountain lion saying, "I'm walking up Rainbow Canyon, you've purchased this, you've protected it, where's my crossing? I need to get to the other side. We have to solve this problem." So we're getting there, we're working on it, and we're almost there. And eventually this could be our reality. So this is what an overpass or a wildlife overpass could look like in this location, connecting the Nature Conservancy land to the Santa Margarita Ecological Reserve. But we can't do this alone. We've been doing this with partners and, like I said, working with multiple agencies. And we are in those conversations now, and we're going to be moving that forward very soon. We're hoping within the next year to at least get the design started or the project study started. And so I wanted to also just let you know that these crossings are not just for mountain lions. These crossings serve multiple species, and it's really important to understand that, because maybe when I was talking about in the beginning, you know, picture yourself as an animal. If you did picture yourself as a butterfly, just imagine flying up to a really busy interstate where cars are going 80 miles an hour and they're trying to cross, you're a butterfly fluttering, trying to cross the interstate. There's no way you can do it. The wind would just throw you back. So these overpasses are not only great for mountain lions, they're also great for deer. They're also functioning for coyotes, for multiple species, but also small species like butterflies and like lizards and other smaller species that actually will use this for live-in habitat. And this is why this area is so important for connectivity, as well as important for climate adaptation. And so we start to create that connectivity hub. We start to see a connectivity hub coming together, starting with the Temecula Creek Bridge crossing, and then looking at a future overpass, as well as culverts along Interstate 15. And this becomes really exciting because we've created this connectivity hub, and we've potentially been able to reconnect populations of mountain lions and other species as well. So if you look to your right, this is what we're looking at, not only protecting one of nature's strongholds, but also connecting populations back together so it truly remains a stronghold. And we have this healthy, happy population of mountain lions again if we can make this happen. But we also need to focus on the linkages in between. So if you remember way in the beginning, I talked about the South Coast missing linkages. Well, this location enables us to really start catalyzing and working with our partners who are already working on the ground in other locations to connect together and to create that system of land protection and that system, those system of crossings throughout Southern California. And so I don't want to, you know, I want to refocus on Tehachapi because that's where we have that healthy mountain lion population, which is indicative of what's probably happening with other species as well. So if we can build that connectivity hub here, we can also do it in the Tehachapis. The Tehachapi location is extremely important because it combines at least 4 different ecological systems together where they converge. And so you have multiple species, desert species, woodland species, grassland species. And also you have that healthy population of mountain lions that can continue to move into Southern California if we maintain connections, if we create connections, and if we protect land there. So that's exactly what we're going to be doing in the Tehachapi linkage as well. What you're looking at on the left is Highway 58 through the Tehachapi linkage, which is located just south of the Sierra Nevadas. And this is the possibility for an overpass in this location. We could also build some culverts, and we could see a nice, happy, healthy mountain lion population continue to cross and move through the landscape. But what's really important in the Tehachapi linkage is protecting land. So this area is not as urbanized, and it's not as threatened by urbanization yet. But it's really important to get in front of that because it's such an important area for future climate adaptation for multiple species. And so we are protecting land there. The Nature Conservancy has protected about 32,500 acres of land in that location. And we continue to focus there to protect it so that we can protect those large swaths of land, and we can protect land on both sides of Highway 58 to continue to create this connectivity hub. And so we protected and connected these 2 nature strongholds, which is a really good start. But like I said, we also need partners, and we need to work together to create this system of land protection and the system of crossings throughout Southern California. And that's exactly what we're doing. We're creating this Southern California vision together so that we can create these connectivity hubs, and they can catalyze or at least connect to where other people are working on the ground. And where other people are not working on the ground, where there isn't capacity, we can start to really catalyze focus there to create these connections throughout Southern California so that both wildlife so that wildlife can continue to move and adapt and adapt to a changing environment, and people can continue to move through and continue to move on and have safe passages for both of them. So just look how happy they all are. If we create this system of crossings and system of land protection, we stay safe and the animals get to move and wander in the way that they need. And look at them. That's exactly what we want to do. We want to create these connections, not just for the mountain lion, but for multiple species to move throughout Southern California. And it's extremely important, as I said, to do this decade, mainly because some of our species are going to go extinct if we do not. But some takeaways: this is a fixable problem. With our partners and your support, the Nature Conservancy can create this system of wildlife crossings and a system of land protection in Southern California. And I just want you to remember that wildlife pathways protect nature and they protect people. So wildlife is less likely to end up in your backyard and less likely to cause accidents on roadways if they have safe passages. But also, you can make a difference. So you can help protect wildlife simply by knowing what's in your backyard. Understanding what's in your backyard will really help you understand what plants you can plant to attract those species to help move them through. Or if you have fencing up in your yard, maybe that's causing some severing of smaller animal linkages that you could take a look at. So it's really getting to know your own backyard and understanding how species are moving through there and what they're doing and what species you want to and can attract. You can also support wildlife crossings that may be going in your area. And this is really great. Now that you know what wildlife crossings are and how important they are, you can go out and support those crossings as well. And you can also speak out when developments come into your neighborhood or infrastructure may sever a linkage. And if it's going to sever a linkage, you now have the knowledge to say, maybe we can redesign this in some other way to mitigate those impacts, to lessen those impacts, or to completely decrease and remove those impacts. So you can definitely make a difference. And I just want to leave you and end with this quote by Vincent van Gogh, who said, "Normality is a paved road. It's comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow on it." So we can move through life on our paved roads, but wildlife needs those flowers growing and that dirt and those dirt pathways to continue to move. So let's give them those. Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And now I'm going to hand the presentation back over to Liz.
We'd just like to say thank you for joining us both through the webinar and Facebook Live. It's been a pleasure to be with you, and we hope that you have a wonderful Wednesday. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.